this is Leslie with the Plaid Poodle, and today I'm starting a series of autumn-themed cards. Fall is one of my favorite seasons, probably my favorite season after summer. Maybe fall, then summer. I just wish fall lasted a little bit longer before it got cold and frigid. But anyway, I just love the colors. They're more regal, a little deeper. So I'm gonna, this is the first in a series, and for this card, it's just a simple little thank you card. I don't have my inner card in yet, but let me pull my camera back out a little bit and I'll show you the stamp sets that I'm using today. I'm using the Timeless Textures stamp set, which is new it was new this with this New Year's annual catalog, and I just love the different little shabby edgy background stamps, and there was one that's perfect. It has a little wood grain, so we're going to use that one from that stamp set. And then the Vintage Leaves, of course, is a classic. I love it. And we're going to use the maple leaf, and then I'm going to use this tiny little leaf here to decorate my the inside of the card. And then one of my favorite stamp sets from the new annual catalog is this Flourishing Phrases. I love the coordinating dies that come with it, but I love it mostly for all the sentiments that come with it. It's a congratulations, a thank you, just a note, a marriage, get well, sympathy. It just has about every event, life event that you would need for any kind of card. So I just keep going back to it over and over again because it just covers so many different life events. So anyway, to get started, the base of my card is Early Espresso cardstock, and it's 8.5 by 5.5. I've scored it at 4 1/4 and folded it in half for my card base. I'm going to set that aside because we're going to do our stamping first. And I've used a very vanilla piece of cardstock that is 5 1/4 by 4, and if you don't grab these dimensions, I will have them on my blog with a blog post for this card, www.theplaidpoodle.com, and a link down below to that, so you can get all the dimensions that I used. Okay, I'm going to use my Stampin' Pearson mat for this. Well, first of all, let's go ahead, and I'm using Crumb Cake ink for that background stamp. And you don't have to be, you know, real careful in your placement. Just leave enough room for your sentiment, and I could probably do the sentiment first, which why don't we do that? That way I'll be sure with my placement. Now this one, I made this one a thank you card. This one, I'm needing a sympathy card. I have a good friend that just lost her daughter-in-law in kind of a sudden way, which is always terrible. But so I think I'm going to send her this card. I think it's perfect for this time of year, and it's just sweet. And this card would also make a great birthday card. It's a very good masculine card. It's just very versatile. Okay, now I'm going to take the Crumb Cake with this wood grain background stamp, and I'm just going to do a couple up top, and then I'm going to turn it around, and my leaf is going to cover up a lot of this, so like I said, you don't have to be very careful, but I'm going to come over a little bit towards the right side, and a couple, I turned it upside down for that. Now now what I didn't do on my card is sponge the edges. But in class the other day, several of the ladies sponged the edges of their card, and it just looked really nice. So I think I'm going to take a minute. Whoops, sorry, hit the camera. And You know, this isn't Hollywood, folks. I wish it was. It's the blind leading the blind over here. Anyway, I'm going to take a little Stampin' sponge and take this crumb cake and just sponge around the edges of my stamped card. And the sponging gives it a little bit of depth when I'm going to adhere it to the card base. It just gives it a little depth, and I just think it's just a nice little touch. So, all right, now we're done with the crumb cake. So now I can go ahead and adhere that onto my card base. Just grab my ATG gun because it was handy. Sometimes when you're trying to square things up, if you just kind of look at one corner, the rest of the corners fall in line. Okay, now for the next part of this, I have run a little piece of crushed curry cardstock, and this is just 3.5 by 1.5, and I ran it through already with the wood grain textured impressions embossing folder. I don't know if the camera's picking up that, but it looks just like the side of a tree. So just to give it a little added texture, I've ran that little piece through there, and I am going to flag the ends. I think I'm going to go ahead and sponge this too. So I was too quick to put that crumb cake away. I'm going to go ahead and sponge the edges of this. There we go. And I had to grab a pair of scissors. Just flag the ends a little bit on both sides. I could use a punch, but this is such a little tag. There we go. And then to adhere that, I want to use some Stampin' Dimensionals. So I'm just going to put a couple on there. Oh, before I do that, I'm taking a piece of, oh, that's probably, what would you say, 5 inches maybe, of the 5/8 inch burlap ribbon, and I'm going to just cut the ends in kind of a, and I'm going to staple this to my little tag. I'm going to staple this to my little tag before I adhere it down. And the sample just kind of, and I can trim it out once I get it on there. If I think it's too much ribbon, I can trim it on. And I'm just using the handheld stapler. And Stampin' Up! Is discontinuing this handheld stapler, so I love it, and I use it all the time. So if you are interested in this, please click on the link below and order it. It's not that pricey, and it's just very handy to have on hand. I use it all the time. I'm really disappointed. So I'm going to put that right in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to stamp my maple leaf image, And now I'm going to use my Stampin' Pearson mat, and sometimes it's not necessary and sometimes it is when you're using the photopolymer. So I'm just going to go ahead and be cautious. But I've got two sides of cardstock, so if I mess up on one side, I can always flip it over and do the other. And I love these leaves, this vintage leaf stamp set. Now with photopolymer, I always kind of like to hold it, maybe 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, and perfect. And I'm gonna, while I've got the ink out, this is gonna be the inside of my card. And remember I said I was gonna put this little leaf in there. I'm just gonna stick it right there. And I can write my note or my right in there once I adhere that to the inside. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. And that Flourishing Phrases stamp set has a perfect inside sentiment as well if I wanted to use that, but I'm just going to put a little note inside. And that's sweet. Now when you open the card, there's just a little touch. Okay, now I'm going to cut this out with the leaflet framelits. So hold on and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I die cut using the Big Shot and the magnetic platform, the little leaf out. I love framelits, so there's no fussy cutting. And then I'm going to adhere the leaf to the card with the Stampin' Dimensionals. Whoops, I got ink on the back of my, gotta be careful I don't get that on my card. I'm going to kind of see where I need it, because I don't need it right where that tag is. That's already stacked up with the dimensionals, so I don't need it to be, I just need my leaf to be even with that. So I think I'm okay. I might, that's probably good. I was going to say, I think I might move this one down a little bit. Put it down. Let's get a new one. Make sure it's real sticky. I don't want it to fall apart in the mail. There we go. I like that better. Okay, and then the last thing I did was put a little bow of linen thread. And I had my bow, here it is. And what I'm going to put that on with is a little dab of the fine tip glue pen. And I always just kind of squirt a little out before I actually work on my card to make sure that it's not going to come out in a gush, or to make sure there's not a, you know, sometimes it gets stuck in there and then you squeeze real hard and you get a big glob. So I always just kind of make a habit. The first time I use it in a setting is to just, and I'm just going to put a little dot right there. Decide which side of my bow I want to show. Now the fine tip glue is awesome and it has staying power, but you do have to let it dry a little bit before you manhandle your card. So I'm going to just leave that there, and sometimes I would use a little glue dot. That would be, see, it's moving with me, but I'm going to trim that out. And then I'm going to clear this off so you can all see this card. I love it. I love it. It's just perfect for so many different occasions this time of year. It'd be a great Happy Thanksgiving card. And have any of you ever thought of sending Thanksgiving cards instead of Christmas cards? Less pressure, and how nice to receive one before the onslaught of Christmas cards comes. So anyway, thanks for joining me. And like I said, for all the dimensions and the supplies I use, see the comments below this YouTube video, or go to my blog, www.theplaidpoodle.com. And if I can help you with any of your stamping supplies and needs, I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. So contact me for that, and I would welcome the opportunity. You all have a great day. Bye-bye.